Let's move back to June 1991, Eldoret. My wife and I, Leanne, right over here, we're just finishing up our year All the applause over there, absolutely. We were just finishing up our year as the first team leader there in Kenya. The driver of the vehicle, the one vehicle that Indiana University had at the time, Yusuf, came to our house in Eldoret along with his 12-year-old daughter. And he said, his daughter, Caroline, she can't keep up with her classmates anymore. We were standing in the front lawn, and I pulled out my stethoscope and I put it on her chest, and I heard what's called a mitral rumble. Now, rumble, think of what's that Waddy Piper book, childhood classic, surely you know it, The Little Engine That Could. The Little Engine That Could, so the little engine rumbling down the track. Well, this is Caroline, but the rumbling is not what you want to hear. And in fact, listening to her story and examining her, it was quite clear to me that she had mitral stenosis, and it was severe mitral stenosis, and she had, at most, 2 years left to live. And I thought a little bit about Yusuf. I'd been to his house, had met his lovely wife, Ruth. They had several children. 3 of those children had juvenile onset diabetes, and not one of those 3 children was going to make it through childhood and into adulthood. This is in the days, 1991, before Eli Lilly's generosity to ensure that we had the insulin we needed, that Yusuf had the insulin that he needed. It was before Purdue had started its clinic alongside their Kenyan counterparts in the care of diabetes. And so his children were not going to make it. And here is his 4th child. And again, I'm thinking to myself, does it get easier? Does it get easier to lose the first, and then the second, and then the third, and now the 4th? And of course, the answer is no. Unfortunately, I was also thinking at the time, I'm kind of like the rusty old engine in that story. I cannot help. I cannot help. I cannot help you. First, I'm an internist, and this disease, this mitral stenosis, required valve replacement, and that's not what I do. In fact, just in a quick aside, one of my sons at the time, around that time, fell and lacerated his arm, and he comes running home to Mom and says, "Mom, don't let Dad sew me up. I need to see a real doctor." And the second reason I couldn't help was because there was no capacity in Kenya at that time, 1991. Valve replacements were not being done. And the third reason I couldn't help was because we had committed in this partnership from the very get-go to work under the direction of our Kenyan colleagues, to work within their system, to do what we could to enable and to empower our Kenyan colleagues, but we were not there to whisk their children back to the United States, which was the only place, perhaps India, but really the only place that could help this young girl. And she was there in front of me in just a little way. She's 12 years old. She looks like she's 8. Thin, but a happy kid, and her eyes danced. I cannot help you. I cannot help you. I cannot help you. But sometimes to do the wrong thing, at least what seems to be the wrong thing in that moment, is in fact the right thing to do if you wish an eventual achievement that's right and just. So I looked to Yusuf, and I said, not really thinking at the time that there's this cream and crimson engine coming down the track. This cream and crimson engine, it's maybe thousands and thousands of miles away, but I turned to him and I said, perhaps Indiana University can help. So I went back. This is, again, 2 weeks later, I'm back in the United States. We pulled together the team, the small team, the chiefs, the administrators, the chairman, and others, the surgical team, the administrators at Riley Hospital, reached out and played a few cards with the U.S. Embassy. I went back to Kenya in December, and on December 23rd, flew back with Caroline in tow to the United States. And a couple weeks after that, she was on the operating table at Riley Hospital, and 3 months after that, she was back home in Kenya. And you can clap. It's okay to clap. It's okay to clap, but it's premature, and unfortunately, the story doesn't end there, because now she's 12 years old, she has a pig valve in. No anticoagulation at that time. Even if we wanted to put in a mechanical valve, we couldn't have done it. And so we put in, the surgeons, not me, she's with a pig valve, and we know it's gonna fail in 5 to 6 years. 5 to 6 years later, we mobilize the same resources, bring her back to the United States, put her on the operating table in Riley Hospital. They put in a mechanical valve. But the mechanical valve, it requires anticoagulation. And if anything goes wrong with the mechanical valve, even at this time, we don't have the capacity in Kenya. We're gonna get there. We, Americans and Kenyans working together, building up a cardiology program, building up a diabetes program, building up a surgery program, but we're not there yet. This is 1997. And Caroline's now 18 years old. So what happens next? What does she do? Well, that's not really my story to tell. That's Caroline's story to tell. Caroline, would you come to the stage?
So I'm Caroline. So I don't rumble anymore. I tick. So I'm used to the tick now. It was nerve-wracking waking up to it, but I'm used to it, and I like hearing it. I think most people around me can hear the ticking, and at some point, they just don't hear it. Anyway, that was what, 26?
Long time ago.
Years ago, in 2 months, maybe. So here I am at Bob's house. And then I think you were like, do you want to go to school? Or something like that. So I was like, sure, I can go to school. So somehow, magic happened again, like it happened always in my life. I ended up at Marian College, which is now Marian University. And with all that going on in my life, I was like, I'm going to be a cardiologist. So went to Marian College, studied hard, knew I needed grades to go to medical school, good grades to go to medical school, worked hard, but towards the end of Marian College, I realized, or I guess I learned, that to go to medical school, you need to either have lots of money to pay for your tuition, or be an American citizen and get federal loans, which I had neither. So I went ahead and put that on hold and say, okay, I need to do something else. So I enrolled in a medical technology program for a year, applied for jobs, and specifically looked for a place that would petition for me to be a permanent resident so I can apply for those loans. So ended up in Salt Lake City, Utah, in one of the big reference labs. So as soon as I was able to get the number that I needed, it's called an A number, I applied for medical school, got into IU, and then came back here, went to medical school. Through medical school and residency, my brother, one of the 3 siblings, brothers, came to visit. had kidney disease, kidney failure, ended up on dialysis. And so I decided to do home dialysis because we can get any way to get paid. And one of the nephrologists was like, I can do as long as he does home. So we did home dialysis for almost 10 years. And all through that, I learned about nephrology, and my cardiologist hurt slowly became nephrologist hurt. So I applied to fellowship, ended up in University of Cincinnati, graduated, and sweet home Indiana. I came back to Indiana, joined a local private practice, and that's where I have been for the last 10 years. Now that's my story.
Caroline came home one day when she was at Marian University, and she told my wife just a little story that was something like this. She was walking with one of her male friends, and the gentleman said, "Your watch is really loud." And Caroline's response was, "Well, that's not my watch ticking, that's my heart beating." And as I reflected on that story in preparation for this evening, and as I sat in that chair and listened to all those stories, it just seems to me that all of those stories and Caroline's story is the sound of Indiana University's and AMPATH's heart beating. You all have made that possible. Thank you so much. We are deeply grateful.